Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the consequences, the positive consequences and the negative consequences of everything that you do, because time always catches up. And if you take the right action, you're going to have consequences that you really like. If you have the wrong action, you're going to have consequences you don't really like. So let's dive in. We tend not to think of the long-term consequences of not working out. We tend to not think of the long-term consequences of building the business that we want to, or waking up early to put more time into our self-development. We tend to try to avoid the negative consequences. Let me say this. We tend to try to avoid thinking about the negative consequences in life. And so, I always say the negative consequences of our actions are always just a little bit out of the side of our view, right? It's like, for those of you guys that can't see the video, it's like my fist is over here to the right and I'm always looking over to the left. And it's like, so often it's like our negative consequences are right there. They're just out of sight. And we try not to look at them. We try to act like everything's going to be okay if I don't take care of myself. Everything's going to be okay if I don't build my business. Everything's ever going to be okay if I don't start working on my personal development. And really what we're trying to do is we're trying to take our head and then just turn it and look directly at those consequences. Because what we tend to do is we tend to think about the negative consequences of following the life that we want. We tend to think about the negative consequences of what it is that we want versus what it is that we don't want. We tend to think of all of the negative consequences of doing the thing that we actually truly want to do with our life. And we tend to think of all of the positive consequences of not doing what we want to do. And so I'll kind of break down what this means. If you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? We're going to dive into it. But we don't tend to focus on the negative consequences that are just right there. And we're trying not to pay attention to them. The negative consequences of not taking action, of staying in mediocrity, all of that. And I want to take a step back before we go any further. And I want you to realize that whenever you say yes to something, anything, you are automatically saying no to something else. So whenever you say yes to sleeping in, you're saying no to having a morning routine or going for a run. You're saying no to reading those books in the morning and working on your personal development. So whenever you say yes to anything, you are automatically saying no to something else. And so you've got to start thinking about that. When I'm saying yes to something, when I'm saying yes, I'm going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix for 4 hours. What am I saying no to? You're saying no to a lot of other things. So, when you're saying yes to watching the Netflix, you're saying no to building your business, or you're saying no to creating the wealth for yourself and for your family. You're saying no to the people whose lives you could change by your business existing. And so you have to understand that with every yes, there's also a no, just the way that it goes. See, what we tend to focus on though is relaxing or hanging out or downtime. Oh, I'm going to focus on some me time. And then you sit and watch Netflix and trash TV for 4 hours, right? There's nothing wrong with hanging out, with watching Netflix, with decompressing. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's always consequences to everything that we do. And there's also consequences to everything that we don't do. And so if you were planning on, being really productive today, but you decide to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, well, there's negative consequences that come with that. And we tend not to try to think about those negative consequences. If you're saying yes to sleeping in, you're saying no to a morning routine. You're saying no to morning yoga. You're saying no to morning meditation. You're saying no to starting that new book that you just bought. You're saying no to journaling and getting to know yourself on a deeper level. And life is full of consequences. There's positive consequences and there's negative consequences with every single action that you do or do not take in life. There's always consequences. And time will always catch up to you. I say this all the time, but time is either your best friend or your greatest enemy. And as you fast forward 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from today, you're going to find out if you took the right actions today or if you didn't. And so when you start to look at it and you say, okay, well, yeah, Are there quote unquote negative consequences to building my business? Yeah, it's going to take a lot from you, right? To build the business. Are there positive consequences? Yeah, but which ones are you focusing on, right? So what are the consequences of building my business? Well, creating wealth for myself, creating freedom are a couple positive consequences. What else? Doing something that I love, that makes me feel good, that is fulfilling for me. Okay, that's a positive consequence. Working for myself and not having to have anybody else tell me what to do. That's a positive consequence. What else are positive consequences? Time freedom, location freedom, being able to travel whenever I want and not have to put PTO time in. Doing what I want, when I want, with who I want. Those are the positive consequences of me putting my head down, taking the right action, and building my business. Are there negative consequences to it? Absolutely. And that's usually what we tend to focus on. We tend to focus on, oh, God, I got to work so hard to build this business. Oh, I got to be dedicated. Oh, no, I've got to get out of my comfort zone. I've got to face rejection. I got to go try to sell my product where people are going to say no to my face. Those are some negative consequences. I gotta face all of my insecurities, because as building a business, all of your insecurities are going to come up to the surface. And so are there negative consequences? Yeah. Are there positive consequences? Yeah. But what do we tend to do that stops us from taking action is we tend to spend all of our time focusing on the negative consequences. Oh my God, what if somebody says no to me? Oh, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't want to work hard today. I don't want all of my insecurities to come to the surface. And our brain gets focused on that thing and doesn't think about anything else. It doesn't think about the wealth. It doesn't think about the freedom. It doesn't think about not having to work for someone else. It doesn't think about being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. No, it just thinks about all of the negative consequences. And when we're constantly thinking about the negative consequences, is it going to be hard for us to take action? Yeah, because the only thing that you're thinking about is the shit that you don't want to be doing. You're like, I don't want to do any of these things. And so what do? We focus on the negative. And then what happens? We end up not getting the life that we want because we don't take any action. So what are the consequences of not building my business? Well, same old life, nothing changed. I have to work for someone else forever. Maybe I don't feel fulfilled and I don't have the life that I want. Maybe not creating wealth for myself and for my family and being able to put my children in better schools, being able to pay for their college. Yeah, those are some consequences of not building my business. And so it's good for you to understand that there's always positive consequences. There's always negative consequences. But if you're going to take action towards building the life that you want, you've got to start focusing more on the positive versus thinking about the negative. Doesn't mean the negative doesn't exist. You're still going to have to work hard. You're still going to have to wake up early. You're still going to have to get rejection and face rejection all day, every single day. But you're doing it because you're constantly focusing on the end result that you're trying to get to, the life that you're trying to build for yourself. Let's give you another example. Are there consequences to creating a healthy lifestyle? Are there positive consequences to creating a healthy lifestyle? Whether that be eating healthier, working out more, going for runs more, breaking a sweat more often. Are there positive consequences to that? Yeah, you might be able to live longer. There's a pretty good chance you'll live longer if you have a healthier lifestyle, right? So you'll live longer. You'll be healthier. You'll have more energy. You'll have more mobility in your old age as you get older. So if you're 25 years old, you don't really care about your mobility, but as you start getting 40, 45, 50, 60, you can start to see, oh man, I should have worked out a little bit more. I should have done some more stretching. I should have done some more yoga. They always catch up. They always catch up. And you always think you have more time. That's the crazy part about it. So those are some of the positive consequences of a healthy lifestyle. I guarantee everybody listening to this podcast wants to be healthy, but we usually don't focus on the positive and the positive consequences. What do we focus on? We focus on the negative consequences of being healthier. Are there negative consequences? Yeah, there's really hard work. There's dedication. There's saying no to eating the food that we would normally enjoy. You know, like it's a bag of hot Cheetos. Yeah, that shit tastes really good, doesn't it? But it's full of fat. It ain't good for you. It's not real food. That's imitation food. So those are some negative consequences. Waking up earlier so you have time to go for a run, working out, whatever it might be. Sweating. Ugh. Having to take a shower after you work out. So you have less time because you got to take more showers. Are there negative consequences? Yeah, there's a laundry list of negative consequences. And that's what we tend to focus on as humans. We tend to focus on all of the negative consequences. It's just what humans do. I've been studying humans for a really long time and working with humans and trying to figure them out and reading books on them. And we tend to focus on the negative more than the positive. It's just a natural tendency of humans. Now, the reason why I focus on the negative is because we want to avoid any potential threats coming into our future. So we focus on the negative. It's the reason why people love trash reality TV is because it's so negative and your brain just gets attached to it. So when we look at the healthy lifestyle again, are there consequences, long-term consequences to not creating a healthy lifestyle? Yeah, for sure. And that's what we don't pay attention to usually. We tend to pay attention to the negative consequences right now, which make us not take action. We don't pay attention to the negative consequences in the future. So what are the negative consequences of not living a healthy lifestyle? Not living as long, not looking as good as you could, less energy as you get older, which will permeate into other parts of your life, into your relationships, into your work. Maybe not being able to play with your grandkids as you get older, not being as mobile. Yeah, of course, there's always negative and there's always positive consequences to every single thing that you do. There is no way around it. But really what it is what are you focusing on and what are you taking action on? Because we like to turn a blind eye to the negative consequences of our actions or lack of action. We like to act like it's not going to catch up to us. We like to act like if I don't go to the gym, if I don't eat healthy, if I don't do what I need to do, it's not going to catch up to me. But we all know in the back of our heads, I'm fucked in the future if I don't do this. But we're like, I'm not going to pay attention to it. You got to pay attention to it. You've got to start being driven instead of by your short-term fears. You've got to be driven by your long-term fears. And it's harder because it's not in this moment. It might be 5 years down the road, it might be 10 years, it might be 20 years down the road. But it's got to drive you to take the action that you need to create the life that you want, whether that's the business you want, the family that you want, the body that you want, the health that you want. You've got to start paying attention to the consequences. They're there. They're right under your nose if you're looking for them. Because we like to turn a blind eye to all of the negative consequences of our actions or our lack of actions. But it doesn't mean that they're not there. They're still there. Whether we look at the negative consequence or not, they will still always be there. And you've heard me say it over and over again. Life is either hard now and easy later, or easy now and hard later. Like this morning, I woke up, had my trainer come over, did a freaking workout with him. He kicked my ass. Was it hard now? Yeah. But why am I doing it? Because I want to live longer. I want to have an extra 20 years. I want to be mobile later on in life. I don't want to be one of those hunched over old people that can barely move around. And so I'm choosing hard now so that my life can be easier later. Because if I choose easy now and I don't have a trainer and I don't have somebody to work out with and I don't go to the gym and I don't eat healthy, it's going to be hard later. And it's going to be hard later for longer than it was hard now. That's what's crazy about it. It's going to be hard either way, but we get to choose our hard. We get to choose which one we decide that we want to have. We can't act like we're the victim of our circumstances. You're never a victim of any of your circumstances. Where you are right now is not your parents' fault. It's not the economy's fault. It's not the president's fault. It's not the Wall Street's fault and the ups and the downs and all of that. We can try to external blame as much as possible. But where you are right now is the fault of the version of you 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, and the actions that version of you did or did not take. So if you look around and you're like, hey, my life is pretty awesome and it's great. Well, that means that you made some hard decisions and took some hard actions in the past that created a great, easier life now. But if you look around and life is kind of hard and you don't like where you are, I'm sorry to tell you, it's because of what you did or didn't do in the past. That being said, success leaves clues. If I'm looking at my life and I'm saying, oh man, I don't really like where I am, I didn't make enough hard decisions in the past, what am I going to do? I'm going to make some hard decisions now. I'm going to have to do some hard actions now. I'm going to take some action now. I'm going to have to do what I need to do in order to make my life easier. We have to realize, you have to realize, I have to realize, we all have to realize, we have to realize that our actions create our circumstance. It does. It always does. And so you've got to ask yourself, what are the consequences of the actions that you're taking? And you've got to really start to think about them. What are the positive consequences and what are the negative consequences? And then you ask yourself, if I fast forward 10 years, what's my life going to look like if I continue doing X, Y, Z? And if you like what it's going to look like, do it. If you don't, change it, do something different. Because there's always consequences either way. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories. Tag me at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. Also, if you love this podcast, do me a favor. Give us a rating and review however you listen to us. The reason why is because the more positive ratings and reviews that we get on those platforms like Apple Podcasts and like Spotify, the more positive ones that we get, the more that they actually show this podcast to people who have never listened to it before, which allows us to be able to grow and to improve and to get better. So if you would give us a quick rating review, it would take you 10, 15, 20 seconds maybe. It would really, really help us out. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.